Troy is unfortunately remembered as a diluted version of the Iliad at best, in no small part due to the inadaptability of Homer's most famous epic. The movie is too long, too modern in its ideals, and too focused on humanizing characters that were not created to resemble relatable men in the slightest, but rather the ideals that they aspire towards. The massive CGI battles fall woefully short of immersive, and the movie struggles to tell an epic story devoid of the gods who instigated it in the epic itself. But one thing the movie can be commended on is a single fight between Hector and Achilles, where the distance between them as men and as warriors is displayed in full. It exists as one of two moments where the movie clearly portrays Achilles as he was written in the Iliad, as the greatest warrior to ever live, consumed by his own grief, hubris, and rage that render him a pawn in a war that would ultimately come to define him.
You won't have eyes tonight. You won't have ears or a tongue. You will wander the underworld blind, deaf, and dumb, and all the dead will know. This is Hector, the fool who thought he killed Achilles.
In no two characters in the Iliad is the difference between mortal men and demigods made more apparent than Hector and Achilles. Hector represents everything a man should aspire to be, but still, he is distinctly human, and one of the few Trojans that Homer sought to humanize with fear and lesser qualities associated with the common warrior. The war came to him along with his brother Paris. It is his loyalty to Troy, his bravery in the face of overwhelming odds, and his knowledge that Achilles will kill him that defines him as a tragic hero, one who left the walls of Troy to engage in a fight he was sure to lose. Whereas Achilles is the paragon of Greek excellence, the greatest warrior amongst all the heroes there, but one with no conviction, no apparent weakness, and no loyalty to any cause. He is there simply to satiate his own hubris. If Hector represents the human who fights for the greater good, then Achilles inhabits the role of a demigod with none of those grander convictions, only an innate gift for war. In Homeric epics, the battles are fated to end a specific way. Hector could never have defeated Achilles, and this is what makes his last stand so honorable. It is a fight he can never win. Causality was never permitted after he killed Patroclus. What ultimately makes the fight between the two opposing heroes in the movie so special is that without any of the knowledge of the Iliad I just presented you with, you would likely come to that same conclusion after watching their duel, with no prior knowledge of the rest of the movie. It is that precise, with their movement, actions, dialogue, and demeanor, and is a scene that stands well above any other in the movie. It uses action to definitively characterize Achilles and Hector.
Now you know who you're fighting.
The duel highlights the true natures and prowess of each warrior, while still setting it up as a one-sided affair from the very beginning. Achilles is the aggressor from the start, controlling the ebb and flow of the fight like a predator assessing the ability of its prey. He darts in and out capriciously while keeping Hector at a distance, his spear and shield used to test the ability of the Prince of Troy. But his breathing never changes, and his emotions never rise to the surface. He is doing the one thing he was born to do, and is entirely focused on the prey in front of him. And as the fight carries on, the sounds of shields and swords clashing become intermingled with labored breath and groans of pain, but none from Achilles. Hector is losing, and despite his ability to defend himself, he is fighting out of desperation, out of a fear for his own life that makes his movements increasingly more erratic and hopeless as the fight carries on. What this does is perfectly contrast the methodical way in which Achilles moves across the battlefield. One man fights to win, the other not to die. One is the greatest warrior in all of Troy, and the other in all the world. It's mesmerizing. Watching Achilles move with such grace as though in a dance as he toys with the man who is supposed to be the closest thing to his equal on the battlefield is bizarre. The distance between them becomes obvious, but in more ways than one. Achilles is clearly the superior fighter, but Hector is clearly the superior man. His emotions and desperation reflect his hopeless attempts to hold on to life and everything he holds dear, whereas Achilles in comparison is notably stripped of emotion when he fights. He is there simply for revenge and glory, whereas Hector is there to defend all that he loves, and as a result, Hector appears more human, and Achilles becomes more akin to a force of nature than a man. He never once shows fear, and refuses to let Hector die to anything but his own sword. His hubris demands it. He finishes Hector in a mesmeric sequence where he moves like water finding the best path to its destination. And when Hector manages to raise his head one last time to meet the cold Achilles eye to eye, before he is killed in front of the city he loves so dearly, he cements his strength and honor in the most powerful way possible. And Achilles, through his ruthlessness, makes his true self known.
And we have Hector, whose men would fight the shades of Tartarus if he commanded.
I won't lie. This movie has a countless many faults and is not anywhere near the quality of Homer's Iliad if we're being completely honest. But despite that fact, it has one scene that I believe can truly be appreciated if viewed as an encapsulation of the primary differences between Hector and Achilles. It does more in minutes than the movie manages in a bloated 3-hour runtime, which is both a testament to the quality of the fight and the lackluster nature of the movie, all through characterization that relies on the distinct mannerisms and actions of the two opposing heroes as they fight in a battle that was determined before it began. It perfectly conveys the honor Hector possesses before his death, and the desperation he fights with to cling onto his life even though he knows he can never best Achilles. It makes it clear that Achilles possesses none of those qualities. He fights like a dancer executing a routine practiced hundreds of times, not like a man who fears for his life in the slightest. His unmatched prowess as a warrior made as obvious as the lack of humanity he possesses, as he murders the most human hero amongst his enemies. Their expertly choreographed fight serves as a brilliant example of how to convey character through action, and if anything should be remembered as that, as one very well executed scene in a movie that falters in so many other places. If you guys happen to make it this far, I just want to say thank you for finishing the video. It means a great deal. Also want to give a specific thank you to Sponsify Me, who commented on my last video and let me know that I wasn't really advertising A, my channel, B, my name, and that this content completely looks stripped from another channel if not advertised correctly, so hopefully this fixes it. As well as Birdie Pennington, who commented on my last video as well, who was some very kind praise. If you do happen to enjoy my content, please feel free to like and subscribe to this channel. It would mean obviously a great deal to me, as we are currently at 14 subscribers and, well, hopefully that number can grow a little bit larger than that.